The crystal chandeliers of the Grandview Hotel ballroom cast dancing shadows across the marble floor as Sofia Martinez balanced the silver tray with practiced grace. She had worked hundreds of events like this, but tonight felt different. The annual Blackwood Foundation Gala drew the wealthiest people in the city, and the energy in the room crackled with power and privilege. Sofia adjusted her simple black uniform and moved between the tables, offering champagne to women draped in diamonds and men wearing watches that cost more than her yearly salary. She had learned long ago not to make eye contact, to be invisible, to simply serve and disappear. At 28, she managed the catering staff for these events, and her quiet efficiency had earned her a reputation for perfection. Cameron Blackwood stood near the stage, his tall frame commanding attention even in a room full of notable figures. At 34, he had built Blackwood Technologies from a garage startup into a billion-dollar empire. His sharp jaw and cold gray eyes had graced countless magazine covers, always with the same expression of calculated confidence. He spoke with a senator, his voice carrying that particular tone of someone who had never been told no. Sofia approached their group with fresh drinks, her movements fluid and professional. She had served Cameron twice already that evening, and both times he had taken the glass without acknowledgement, as if her hand were simply an extension of the tray. This was normal, expected. She had stopped hoping for basic courtesy from people like him years ago. As she turned to leave, another guest bumped into her, and the tray tilted. Everything happened in slow motion. A glass of red wine arced through the air, and despite her desperate attempt to catch it, the deep burgundy liquid splashed across the front of Cameron's pristine white shirt. The conversation around them died instantly. Every eye in their section of the ballroom turned to witness the catastrophe. Sofia's heart hammered against her ribs as she grabbed napkins from her apron, her hands shaking. "I am so sorry, sir. Please let me help you," she said, her voice steady, despite the terror coursing through her veins. Cameron looked down at his ruined shirt, then up at Sofia. His eyes were glacial, his expression transforming from surprise to something darker. When he spoke, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. "Do you have any idea how much this shirt costs?" "More than you make in 6 months, I would imagine." He brushed away her attempts to help with an abrupt gesture. "This is exactly why hiring cheap labor is always a mistake. Incompetence has a price." Sofia froze, the napkins crumpled in her fists. Around them, people shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke in her defense. She had endured rude comments before, dismissive attitudes, even outright insults. But something about this moment, about the casual cruelty in his voice and the enjoyment flickering in his eyes, broke something inside her. She straightened slowly, meeting his gaze directly for the first time. Her brown eyes, usually soft and accommodating, hardened with a dignity he had not expected. "You are absolutely right, Mr. Blackwood," she said quietly, her voice carrying in the hushed room. "Incompetence does have a price, and so does cruelty." She carefully placed the napkins on the nearest table and removed her apron. "I apologize for the accident, but I will not apologize for being a human being who made a mistake. Consider this my resignation from serving people who mistake wealth for worth." The shock on Cameron's face was evident, but Sofia did not wait for his response. She walked through the silent crowd with her head high, past the whispering guests and scandalized event coordinator, and out into the cool night air. Her hands trembled as she pushed through the service entrance, but her steps never faltered. Behind her, Cameron stood motionless, wind-stained and speechless. No one had ever spoken to him that way. No one had ever walked away from him. The senator beside him chuckled nervously and made a joke about finding good help, but Cameron barely heard him. Something about the woman's eyes, about the quiet strength in her voice, had unsettled him in a way he could not name. He left the gala early, claiming a need to change clothes, but truthfully, he could not shake the feeling that he had just made a terrible mistake. As his driver navigated the city streets, Cameron found himself thinking about her words. Wealth for worth. The phrase echoed in his mind like an accusation. Hours later, unable to sleep, Cameron drove aimlessly through the city. He found himself in a neighborhood far from his penthouse, where the buildings were older and the streets less polished. At a 24-hour diner with flickering neon signs, he decided to stop for coffee. As he entered, the bell above the door chimed, and he saw her. Sophia sat in a corner booth, still wearing her uniform. Sharing French fries with an elderly homeless man, she was laughing at something he said, her whole face transformed by genuine warmth. 3 other people, clearly without homes, sat at nearby tables, eating meals that Sophia appeared to be paying for. She noticed the waitress looking concerned about the group and walked over, speaking quietly. Then, pulling cash from her own wallet to cover their bills, Cameron stood in the doorway, forgotten and invisible for perhaps the first time in his adult life. He watched as she treated these strangers with more respect and kindness than he showed his own employees. Watched as she gave away money she probably could not afford to lose. Watched as she created a pocket of humanity in a harsh world. When Sophia finally looked up and saw him, her expression did not change to fear or anger. Instead, she simply looked tired. She said something to her companions, then walked toward the door where Cameron still stood. "Are you here to apologize or to insult me again?" she asked quietly. Cameron opened his mouth, then closed it. He had come looking for coffee, for distraction from thoughts he did not want to examine. He had not expected to find her, and certainly not like this. For the first time in years, Cameron Blackwood had no idea what to say. "I saw what you did," he said finally, gesturing toward the people inside. "Buying them food? Talking with them like they matter." "They do matter," Sophia replied simply. "Everyone matters. That is something you seem to have forgotten, Mr. Blackwood." She moved past him toward the street. "Or maybe you never learned it in the first place." "Wait," Cameron called after her, surprising himself. She paused, but did not turn around. "You are right. About what you said at the gala. I was cruel. I am cruel. And I do not know why I came here, but seeing you now makes me realize something." He took a breath. "I have no idea who I actually am without the money and the power, and that terrifies me." Sophia turned slowly, studying his face in the dim streetlight. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, finally, she spoke. "Then maybe it is time you found out. Mr. Blackwood, before you waste the rest of your life being someone not worth knowing." She walked away into the night, leaving Cameron standing alone outside a diner in a neighborhood he had never noticed before. With a stain on his expensive shirt and a crack in the armor he had spent years building around his heart, Cameron Blackwood did not sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse overlooking the city, still wearing the wine-stained shirt, replaying the evening in his mind. Sophia's words haunted him. Before you waste the rest of your life being someone not worth knowing, no one had ever suggested that his life might be wasted. He was successful, powerful, influential. But as dawn broke over the skyline, he found himself wondering if any of it actually mattered. By Monday morning, Cameron had made a decision that shocked his assistant. He wanted to find Sophia Martinez, not to fire her or threaten her, but to understand her. His team located her easily enough. She managed a small family restaurant in the South End called Maria's Kitchen, named after her late mother. She also volunteered twice a week at the Riverside Community Center, teaching cooking classes to at-risk youth. What his team did not tell him because he had not asked was that Cameron's own foundation had been quietly funding the Riverside Community Center for 3 years. It was one of dozens of charitable donations his accountants handled automatically. Causes he supported on paper, but never actually visited. On Wednesday evening, Cameron did something he had not done in 15 years. He walked into the Riverside Community Center and asked if they needed volunteers. The director, an older woman named Patricia, looked him up and down with obvious skepticism. His expensive casual clothes and polished shoes screamed privilege, but she was desperate for help. "Kitchen duty," Patricia said firmly. "We are preparing meals for 200 families. Can you chop vegetables?" Cameron hesitated for only a moment. "I can learn." That was how Sophia found him 20 minutes later, awkwardly holding a knife over a cutting board surrounded by mangled carrots. She stopped in the doorway, her arms full of grocery bags, and simply stared. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. Cameron looked up, a piece of carrot stuck to his cheek. Volunteering. Patricia said you needed help. Patricia does not know who you are, does she? No. I told her my name was Cameron, which is true. He gestured helplessly at the vegetables. I am terrible at this. Sophia set down the bags and walked over. Without a word, she took the knife from his hand and demonstrated the proper technique, her movements quick and efficient. Like this. Keep your fingers curled back. Let the knife do the work. She handed back the knife and moved to her own station, beginning to work on a massive pile of potatoes. Cameron watched her for a moment, then tried to copy her technique. His cuts were still uneven, still slow, but slightly better. They worked in silence for several minutes before Sophia spoke. Why are you really here, Mr. Blackwood? Cameron. Just Cameron. He paused, concentrating on not cutting himself. I have been thinking about what you said. About finding out who I am without the money and power. I thought this might be a start. So this is some kind of self-discovery project? Use poor people to find your soul? Her tone was sharp, but not quite angry.
Oh, maybe.
I do not know. Cameron set down the knife, frustrated. I saw you helping those people at the diner, and I realized I have never actually helped anyone. I donate millions to charities, but I have never met a single person my money helps. I've never gotten my hands dirty. I have never actually done anything that matters. Sophia stopped cutting and looked at him directly. Money matters, Cameron. Do not pretend it does not. The donations from your foundation keep this center open. They feed families, provide after-school programs, give people hope. But money without connection, without understanding, without humanity, that is just numbers on a spreadsheet. Teach me, he said suddenly. Teach me how to connect, how to see people the way you do. Sophia studied him for a long moment, searching his face for signs of mockery or manipulation. She found only genuine confusion and something that looked almost like desperation. I cannot teach you empathy, Cameron. Either you have it or you do not. Then let me try to find it. Let me work here, really work. Not as Cameron Blackwood, the billionaire, but as just another volunteer. If I fail, if I prove I am exactly the person you think I am, then I will leave and never bother you again. Sophia returned to her potatoes, her expression unreadable. Fine, but there are rules. No special treatment. No phone calls during work hours. No complaining. And if you disrespect anyone here, staff or clients, you are gone immediately. Agreed, in Cameron? She looked at him one more time. I know exactly who you are. I am not impressed by your wealth, and I will not be manipulated by false humility. If you are here to ease your conscience, you will be disappointed. Real change requires real work. Over the following weeks, Cameron discovered just how right she was. He showed up every Wednesday and Saturday, the only days Sophia volunteered. He chopped vegetables until his hands cramped, washed dishes until his back ached, served meals to families who looked at him with suspicion and gratitude in equal measure. The work was exhausting and humbling. He made countless mistakes. He burned rice, oversalted soup, dropped an entire tray of prepared meals. Each time, Sophia corrected him patiently, but without praise. Treating him exactly as she treated every other volunteer, but slowly, something began to shift. Cameron started learning names. Marcus, the single father working 3 jobs. Jennifer, the teenager aging out of foster care. Roberto, the veteran struggling with PTSD. They were not statistics or tax deductions. They were people with stories, with dreams. With dignity despite their circumstances, one evening while cleaning up after dinner service, Cameron found himself talking with a young boy named Tommy. The 8-year-old was waiting for his mother to finish a job interview upstairs. What do you want to be when you grow up? Cameron asked, making conversation while wiping down tables. Tommy's face lit up. A chef, like Miss Sophia. She makes the best food, and she is always happy. My mom says happy is better than rich. The simple statement struck Cameron like a physical blow. He looked across the room at Sophia, who was laughing with a group of elderly women, her entire being radiating warmth and purpose. She wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She had nothing compared to his wealth. yet she seemed to possess something he had been searching for his entire life. Later that night, as they locked up the center, Sophia finally acknowledged his progress. "You did well today. Tommy really liked you. He wants to be a chef." "Like you," Sophia smiled softly. "Tommy is special. His mom is trying so hard to give him a better life. They were homeless 6 months ago. Now she has 2 job interviews this week. Because of this place, because of what you do here, because of what we all do here," Sophia corrected. "Community is not one person, Cameron. It is everyone contributing what they can." They walked out into the cool night air. For the first time, Cameron noticed how tired Sophia looked, the shadows under her eyes that makeup did not quite hide. He asked, "You manage the restaurant? Volunteer here twice a week? And I saw you at the food bank last Saturday." "Sleep is overrated," she said lightly. But there was an edge of exhaustion in her voice. "Sophia, you are burning out." "Maybe, but this work matters. These people matter. If I do not show up, who will? Let me help more. Let me do more than just volunteer." "Your mother's restaurant. You are struggling financially, are you not?" "I have seen the building. The kitchen needs updates. The dining room needs renovation." Sophia's expression hardened immediately. "I do not need your charity, Cameron. It is not charity. It is an investment. Your restaurant serves the community. You hire people no one else will hire. You provide affordable meals in a neighborhood where every other place is closing. Let me help preserve that. Why? So you can feel better about yourself. So you can tell your rich friends about your little project in the poor neighborhood." The accusation stung because a month ago it might have been true. But something had changed in Cameron during these weeks of actual work, of actual connection. He was not the same man who had humiliated Sophia at the gala. "No," he said quietly, "because I am starting to understand that legacy is not about how much money you make. It is about what you leave behind that actually helps people. And because I see how much you give, and I want to make sure you do not lose everything trying to save everyone else." Sophia looked at him for a long moment, and Cameron saw something shift in her eyes. Not trust exactly, but perhaps the beginning of it. "I will think about it," she said finally. 3 days later, Cameron's business partner, Richard Thornton, confronted him in his office. Richard had built his own fortune in finance and served on the Blackwood Technologies board. He was everything Cameron used to admire: ruthless, efficient, unsentimentally focused on profit. "What the hell are you doing?" Richard demanded, slamming a tablet on Cameron's desk. The screen showed photos of Cameron at the community center, wearing a stained apron, laughing with volunteers. "Volunteering. Since when is that a crime?" "Since it makes you look weak. Our investors are asking questions. Our competitors are circling. You cannot afford to look soft right now." "Soft." Cameron stood, anger flaring. "I am spending a few hours a week helping people. That makes me soft? It makes you distracted. It makes you vulnerable. And that woman? The server from the gala? I know you have been sniffing around her. What are you thinking?" "She is nobody, Cameron. A charity case that you are apparently developing feelings for? Do not talk about her like that." Richard laughed, a cold sound without humor. "Listen to yourself. A month ago, you would have agreed with me. Now, you are playing saint in soup kitchens and defending waitresses. Wake up, Cameron. This is not who you are. Maybe it is who I should have been all along." Sentimental garbage. You built an empire by being smarter and harder than everyone else. That community center? Your foundation funds it anonymously. Those people you are serving meals to? They are there because of your money, not your physical presence. You do not need to waste your time pretending to be one of them. They're not them, Richard. They are people. And I am starting to realize that being smart and hard has left me completely alone. Richard's expression turned calculating. "The board meeting is in 2 weeks. If you continue this behavior, I will call for a vote of no confidence. The other members are already concerned about your judgment. This obsession with a woman who publicly humiliated you, this sudden charity work, these emotional decisions, they will side with me." "Let them," Cameron said, surprising himself with his own certainty. "I am tired of building things that do not matter." "Then you are a fool. and you will lose everything. After Richard stormed out, Cameron sat alone in his office. The same office where he had spent countless hours building his fortune. The view from the 62nd floor was spectacular, but tonight it just felt empty. His phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Kitchen disaster at the restaurant. Main oven died. Cannot afford repairs. Might have to close for a week. Cameron did not hesitate. He grabbed his coat and headed for the door, ignoring his assistant's questions about his afternoon meetings. For the first time in his career, something mattered more than business. He found Sophia at Maria's kitchen, surrounded by disappointed customers and worried staff. The small restaurant was warm and inviting, despite its worn furniture and outdated equipment. Family photos lined the walls, and the smell of spices filled the air. Cameron, what are you doing here? I heard about the oven. I know a commercial equipment supplier. I can have a new one installed by tomorrow morning. Sophia shook her head. I told you I do not want your charity. It is not charity. It is a loan. Pay me back when you can. Or better yet, let me be a silent partner. 20% stake in the restaurant. I provide capital for updates and expansion. You maintain complete creative and operational control. Purely business. Why would you want to invest in a struggling family restaurant? Cameron looked around the dining room at the disappointed faces of customers who clearly loved this place. At the staff who looked at Sophia with genuine affection. At the photos of her mother smiling in a younger, more hopeful version of this same space, because this place matters. Because you have built something real here. And because I have spent my whole life investing in technology and acquisitions and things that made me money but never made me happy. Maybe it is time I invested in something that actually feeds people's souls along with their stomachs. Sophia studied him, and Cameron saw the exact moment she decided to trust him. Or at least to take the risk. Fine, but I manage everything. You are a silent partner, which means you stay silent. Cameron smiled. Deal. By the next afternoon, a new industrial oven was being installed. By the end of the week, Cameron had arranged for the kitchen to be fully updated. He did not ask for praise or recognition. He simply made it happen, then went back to his regular volunteer shifts at the community center as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The other volunteers noticed. Patricia noticed. And most importantly, Sophia noticed. She watched Cameron arriving on time for every shift, despite running a billion-dollar company. She saw him talking with clients as equals, remembering their names and their stories. She witnessed him staying late to help clean, never once complaining about the unglamorous work. One Saturday evening, after everyone else had left, Sophia found Cameron in the center's small garden, pulling weeds in the fading light. You do not have to do that, she said. Your shift ended an hour ago. I know. But the tomatoes need support stakes, and the beans are choking out the lettuce. Figured I would help before I left. Sophia sat on the wooden bench watching him work. You are different than you were at the gala. Cameron paused, wiping dirt from his hands. I was a nightmare at the gala. I have been a nightmare most of my life, actually. What changed? He sat beside her on the bench, looking at his dirt-stained hands. Hands that had only ever signed checks and shaken hands in boardrooms. You did. You walked away from me when everyone else would have stayed and taken the abuse. You showed me that dignity does not come from money. It comes from knowing your own worth. I was angry. You were right. I mistook wealth for worth, just like you said. I thought because I had money, I was inherently more valuable than other people. I treated people like they were disposable because I had never been treated that way myself. And now, Cameron turned to face her. In the golden evening light, Sophia looked tired but peaceful. Her dark hair catching the sun, her brown eyes soft, with something that might have been understanding. Now I am starting to realize that the best parts of my life have nothing to do with my bank account. Watching Tommy learn to make pasta last week, helping Marcus fill out his job applications, listening to Roberto talk about his time in the service, sitting here with you in a garden that needs weeding. These are the moments I will remember when I am old, not the mergers or the acquisitions. Cameron, Sophia said softly, be careful. People like you do not usually sustain this level of change. The novelty will wear off. Your real life will call you back. What if this is my real life now? What if I do not want to go back? Sophia did not answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle but firm. Then you need to prove it. Not to me, but to yourself. That night marked a turning point. Cameron continued volunteering, but he also began making changes at Blackwood Technologies. He implemented new policies, better wages for service staff, improved benefits for lower-level employees, mandatory volunteer days for executives. Some board members complained, but Cameron did not care. Richard continued, pushing for his removal, gathering allies, preparing for the confrontation he knew was coming. The crisis arrived on a Tuesday morning. Cameron was at the restaurant helping Sophia prepare for lunch service when Richard called an emergency board meeting. The message was clear. Return to the office immediately. Lose your company. Sophia saw the tension in Cameron's shoulders as he read the text. You have to go. I know. He set down his phone and looked at her. But I need you to know something first. When I walk into that boardroom, I am going to tell them the truth. That I am done living the way I was living. That I am done building an empire that means nothing. And they are probably going to vote me out. Cameron, you cannot throw away everything you've built because of some volunteering. I am not throwing it away. I am reshaping it. And if they cannot accept that, then maybe I built the wrong thing in the first place. He took her hand, surprising both of them. You helped me see that success without purpose is just sophisticated failure. Whatever happens today, I want you to know that meeting you saved my life. Sophia squeezed his hand, and for the first time since the gala, she smiled at him with genuine warmth. Then go show them who you have become. The boardroom of Blackwood Technologies occupied the entire top floor of the headquarters building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city Cameron had conquered, the skyline his fortune had helped shape. Normally, he felt powerful here, untouchable. Today, walking into a room full of hostile faces, he felt something different. He felt free. Richard Thornton stood at the head of the table, having presumed to take Cameron's usual position. The 7 other board members sat in uncomfortable silence, their expressions ranging from concern to openly antagonistic. Glad you could join us, Richard said with false pleasantry. We have been discussing the future of this company. My company, Cameron corrected, taking a seat. He did not fight for the head of the table. Position did not matter anymore. Technically, our company, we hold significant shares, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect this investment. Your recent behavior has been erratic and concerning. Margaret Chen, the CFO, spoke up. Cameron, we are worried about you. The volunteering, the restaurant investment, the policy changes that are costing us millions in the short term. This is not like you. You're right, Margaret. It is not like the old me. The old me was miserable. Old you was profitable, Richard interjected. The old you made us all wealthy beyond imagination. The new you is distracted, emotional, and frankly compromised. Compromised how? Richard pulled up an image on the screen behind him. It showed Cameron and Sophia laughing together at the community center, her hand on his arm. This woman, the server who humiliated you at the gala. You are involved with her, are you not? We are friends. Friends. Richard laughed. You are spending company time at her restaurant. You have invested personal funds into her business. You have restructured our entire volunteer program around organizations she works with. This is not friendship. This is obsession. And it is clouding your judgment. Cameron stood slowly, walking to the windows. The city spread before him, millions of people living lives he had never bothered to notice. Somewhere down there, Sophia was managing the lunch rush at Maria's kitchen. Somewhere down there, Tommy was dreaming of becoming a chef. Somewhere down there, real life was happening while he stood in a tower arguing about profit margins. You are right about one thing, Richard. I am different. But I am not compromised. I am finally awake. He turned to face the board. I built this company on the belief that innovation and ruthlessness were the only values that mattered. I crushed competitors, exploited workers, maximized profits at any human cost. And yes, we all got rich. But I also became someone I despise. Spare us the redemption speech, Richard said coldly. We have numbers to discuss. Your policy changes have cost us $18 million in the last quarter. Your distraction with charity work has delayed 3 major deals. Your reputation is suffering because you are seen serving meals in soup kitchens when you should be closing acquisitions in boardrooms. My reputation? Cameron laughed, but there was no humor in it. I had a reputation as a brilliant, ruthless businessman who treated people like disposable resources. If that reputation is suffering, good. Margaret tried a gentler approach. Cameron, we understand that you went through something difficult. The incident at the gala was embarrassing, and perhaps you were overcompensating. But this company needs your focus. We can hire people to do volunteer work. We can make charitable donations. You do not need to personally serve meals, but I do, Margaret. Because for the first time in my life, I understand that money is not actual contribution. Signing a check is easy. Showing up is hard. Connecting with people is hard. Admitting I have been wrong about everything is hard. But it is also the only thing that has ever made me feel like my life has purpose. Purpose does not pay dividends, Richard snapped. Purpose does not satisfy shareholders. Purpose is a luxury we cannot afford while competing in a global market. Then maybe we are competing for the wrong things.
The room fell silent. Richard's expression turned triumphant. There it is. Cameron Blackwood, corporate titan, has decided that competition is wrong. That profit is wrong. That success is wrong. Well, the rest of us still live in the real world. And in the real world, your behavior is unacceptable. He placed a document on the table. I call for a vote of no confidence. Cameron has proven himself incapable of leading this company. I propose we remove him as CEO and install new leadership that will refocus on our core mission, making money. Cameron looked at each board member in turn. Some would not meet his eyes. Others looked sympathetic but resigned. Margaret appeared genuinely conflicted. Only Robert Yamada, the oldest board member and original investor, returned his gaze steadily. Before you vote, Cameron said quietly, I want to tell you a story. 6 weeks ago, I humiliated a woman at a charity gala because she accidentally spilled wine on my shirt. I called her incompetent. I made her feel worthless in front of hundreds of people. And you know what? That was not unusual for me. That was just Tuesday. He walked slowly around the table, hands in his pockets. I have spent 20 years treating people like obstacles or resources. I have fired employees without knowing their names. I have crushed small businesses without considering the families who depended on them. I have built this company on the suffering of others, and I called it success. Cameron, Margaret started, but he continued. That woman at the gala? Her name is Sofia Martinez. She manages a restaurant her mother started 25 years ago. She volunteers at a community center every week, teaching cooking to kids who have nothing. She gives away money she cannot afford to lose because she believes people matter more than profit. And when I humiliated her, she did not sue me or sell her story to the press. She just looked at me with pity and walked away. Very touching, Richard said sarcastically. But irrelevant. It is completely relevant. Because she showed me what I had become. A rich, powerful, utterly empty human being. And yes, I have been distracted lately. Yes, I have made changes that cost money in the short term. But I have also started building something that might actually matter in the long term. Robert Yamada finally spoke. What exactly have you been building, Cameron? A company that does not just extract value but creates it. A company that treats employees like human beings. A company that understands profit and purpose are not opposites. Cameron pulled out his own folder. These are the numbers Richard did not share with you. Yes, our costs are up. But so is productivity. Employee retention has improved 40%. Customer satisfaction is at an all-time high. And the restructured volunteer program has generated more positive press than our last 5 product launches combined. He placed reports in front of each board member. More importantly, I have been working on a new initiative. Blackwood Technologies has always focused on consumer products and enterprise software. I want to create a new division focused on social impact technology. Products that help communities, nonprofits, and social services operate more efficiently. It will not be as immediately profitable as our current offerings, but it will matter. Charity does not matter to shareholders, Richard insisted. It does when that charity becomes our unique selling proposition. It does when employees want to work for us because we stand for something. It does when customers choose us because they believe in our mission. Cameron looked directly at Richard. You are right that I have changed. But you are wrong that change is weakness. I am proposing we evolve from a company that just makes money into a company that makes a difference. Margaret flipped through the reports, her expression shifting from skepticism to interest. These employee retention numbers are remarkable. People stay when they are treated with respect. Revolutionary concept, I know. Enough philosophy, Richard interrupted. We need a decision. I call for the vote. Before anyone could respond, Cameron's phone buzzed with an emergency call. He normally would have ignored it, but he saw Sophia's name and his instinct shifted. Excuse me, he said, stepping into the hallway. Cameron? Sophia's voice was strained, almost breaking. I am so sorry to interrupt, but it is Tommy. He collapsed at school. They think it is appendicitis. His mom is at her new job and cannot get away for another hour. He is asking for you. They are taking him to St. Mary's Hospital. I am on my way. He returned to the boardroom. Every face turned toward him, waiting for his choice. Return to the meeting that would determine his professional future, or leave and prove Richard right about his distraction. Cameron did not hesitate. I have to go. An 8-year-old boy I care about is in the hospital. You can vote me out if you want. You can take the company. But I am not going to sit here debating profit margins when a child needs me. This is exactly what I am talking about, Richard said triumphantly. Choosing a random child over his own company. He is not a random child. His name is Tommy. He wants to be a chef. His mother works 3 jobs to give him a better life. And he matters more than any deal we could possibly close today. Cameron looked at each board member one final time. I built this company believing power was the only thing that mattered. But power without compassion is just tyranny. Vote however you want. I already know who I am now. He walked out, leaving behind the empire he had spent 2 decades building, to sit in a hospital waiting room with an 8-year-old boy who had no one else. When Cameron arrived at St. Mary's Hospital, he found Sophia in the pediatric waiting area, looking small and worried. She stood when she saw him, relief flooding her face. They just took him into surgery. They said the appendix was close to rupturing. His mom is stuck across town. I did not know who else to call. You did the right thing. Cameron sat beside her and without thinking took her hand. He is going to be fine. Tommy is strong. They sat in silence for a while, 2 people from completely different worlds, connected by concern for a child neither one had known 2 months ago. The irony was not lost on Cameron. 6 weeks earlier he would not have known Tommy's name. Now he was missing the most important meeting of his career to be here. What happened with your board? Sophia asked eventually. I walked out. They were voting on whether to remove me as CEO. Sophia pulled her hand away, horrified. Cameron, no. You should not have left. That company is your life. It was my life. But sitting here with you, waiting to make sure a little boy comes through surgery safely? This feels more important than any company. You cannot sacrifice everything you built for us. I am not sacrificing it for you. I am choosing what matters to me. There is a difference. He smiled at her shocked expression. Besides, the company will be fine with or without me. But Tommy needs someone here who cares about him. That someone can be me. Before Sophia could respond, her phone rang. Tommy's mother, crying with relief and frustration, barely able to speak through her tears. Sophia assured her that they were there, that Tommy would not be alone, that everything would be fine. An hour later the surgeon emerged. The operation had been successful. Tommy would recover fully. He was asking for Miss Sophia and Mr. Cameron. They found him in recovery, groggy but smiling. When he saw Cameron, his face lit up despite the pain medication making him loopy. You came, Tommy said, his voice small and wondering. Of course I came. We are friends, right? Friends? But you are important. Miss Sophia said you run a big company. Cameron sat carefully on the edge of the bed. Tommy, I want you to know something. That company, those meetings, all that stuff that seems so important? None of it matters as much as making sure you are okay. You matter. Not because of what you can do for me or what I can get from you. Just because you are you. Tommy's eyes welled with tears. My dad left because he said I was too much trouble. Too expensive. Too much work. Cameron felt something crack in his chest. Here was a child who had internalized the same message Cameron had been sending to the world for years. That people were only valuable if they provided something useful, if they were not too much trouble, if they met certain standards. Your father was wrong. You are not too much trouble. You are perfect exactly as you are. And anyone who cannot see that is missing out on knowing an incredible person. Tommy fell asleep shortly after, his hand still holding Cameron's. Sophia watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. That was the kindest thing I have ever heard, she whispered when they stepped into the hallway. I meant every word. That kid deserves the world. You really have changed. Sophia looked at him with an expression he could not quite read. The man who humiliated me at that gala would never have said those things to Tommy. Would never have even been here. That man was afraid of feeling anything real. Turns out, feeling things is terrifying. But it is also the only way to actually live. They walked to the hospital cafeteria for coffee, both exhausted from worry. Cameron's phone had been buzzing constantly with messages from the board, from his assistant, from business partners wondering where he had disappeared to. He ignored all of them. You should check your messages, Sophia said. You might still have a company to save. Cameron pulled out his phone and scrolled through the notifications. The final message was from Robert Yamada. It simply said, motion to remove you failed 5-3. Richard resigned. We believe in the new direction. Come back when you are ready. He showed Sophia the message and she gasped. Cameron, you won. We won. The company gets to evolve. The policies stay. The social impact division happens. He set down his phone and took both her hands. But none of it matters if I lose sight of why I changed in the first place. Which is you. Meeting you, seeing how you live, understanding that a good life has nothing to do with money and everything to do with connection. You saved me, Sophia. From becoming a completely worthless human being. Sophia's eyes filled with tears again. I did not save you. You did the work. I just showed you the door. Then let me walk through it all the way. Let me be someone worthy of your respect. Let me prove that this change is permanent. Cameron, what are you saying? He stood, pulling her up with him. In the harsh fluorescent lighting of a hospital cafeteria, surrounded by worried families and exhausted doctors, Cameron Blackwood made the most important decision of his life. I'm saying I am in love with you. I'm saying that these past weeks, working beside you, learning from you, watching you care for people with such grace and dignity, have been the happiest of my life. I'm saying that I know I do not deserve you. I know I have a million things to learn about being a decent human. But I want to learn them with you. Sophia stared at him, shocked into silence. I am not asking you to love me back, Cameron continued. I am just asking for a chance to prove that I can be the man who deserves to stand beside you. Not as a billionaire condescending to charity work, but as an equal partner in building something that matters. Cameron, Sophia said softly, I have been terrified of falling for you. Why? Because people do not change this fast. Because I keep waiting for you to wake up and realize you miss your old life. Because I do not trust fairy tales where the rich man falls for the poor woman and everything works out perfectly. This is not a fairy tale. This is messy and complicated and I am probably going to screw up 1,000 times. But it is real. My feelings for you are the most real thing I have ever experienced. He touched her face gently. You do not have to trust me yet. Just give me time to earn it. Sophia closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. When she opened them again, they were full of cautious hope. I am falling for you too. I have been fighting it because it seems impossible, but I am falling. Cameron kissed her then, softly and carefully, in a hospital cafeteria that smelled of antiseptic and coffee. It was not romantic or perfect. It was real. Over the next 6 months, Cameron restructured his entire life. He promoted Margaret Chin to CEO of Blackwood Technologies, maintaining his role as chairman but stepping back from daily operations. He sold his penthouse and moved to a normal house in Sophia's neighborhood. He continued volunteering at the community center, not as a project but as genuine commitment. The Social Impact Division launched with Tommy as the face of their first campaign. Technology to connect at-risk youth with mentorship and resources. It was not as profitable as their other divisions, but it mattered. Employee satisfaction soared. Customer loyalty increased. The company evolved. Cameron and Sophia opened a second location of Maria's Kitchen, this one specifically designed to train formerly incarcerated people in culinary skills. They created jobs, changed lives, and proved that business could be both profitable and purposeful. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to click like, share this story with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more meaningful stories.